Great.
Great. Can I just take it away?
Yep, go ahead.
Awesome. I'm going to share my screen. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Ortner. I am a Senior Associate of Finance at the Milken Institute, and I sit on our Pathways to Capital portfolio. And before we dive in on the Community Infrastructure Center, just for context, I'm going to go through kind of how the Milken Institute works and what my team does. But essentially, the Milken Institute is a nonprofit, nonpartisan think tank. We have offices in Santa Monica, New York City, DC, Miami, London, Abu Dhabi, and Singapore. I myself am based in New York City, and I sit on a team within the finance pillar called Pathways to Capital. And essentially, what we do on my team is we are focusing on deploying funds that have historically been unable to reach communities across the country that are underserved, unserved, rural, tribal, and urban. And then specifically with the community infrastructure, we are trying to reach communities from those different designations that have infrastructure and climate resilience projects. So the Community Infrastructure Center was kind of born out of a pattern that we noticed in which underserved rural, tribal, and urban communities across the country were unable to access the capital that they needed to deploy pre-development for these projects. Which, as we all know, is one of the more vital stages of getting a climate or infrastructure project off the ground. So essentially, I'm going to go into a live demo in just a second, but to give you a lay of the land, the Milken Institute, as I said, is nonprofit. So we are entirely responsible in our individual teams to fundraise for our initiatives. So all that to say, the platform is free of charge to both of our user types. And we offer services for both project sponsors who are going to be the individual communities that have these climate resilience and infrastructure projects, as well as providers who are going to be primarily technical assistants and project funders, but anyone else that also has additional funds or services that they can administer to these projects to help them move through the stages of pre-development and become shovel ready. And through the CIC, we offer a whole host of services that you'll see in just a second. We have project readiness assessments, automated and manual matchmaking to federal, state, and philanthropic grants, provider introductions, portfolio support, knowledge-based library of about 1,500 resources that are going to consist of case studies, templates, data sets, community trainings, office hours, etc., that are all designed to provide a full-scale project lifecycle support. This is just a little bit about the platform in the back end. We have about 1,500 organizations and about 900 projects as of now. And then you can see, before I move on and do a demo, just a breakdown of some of the types of providers and project sponsors that we're working with. There is no barrier to entry for the platform. Anyone can create an account and access these resources, but some of our main provider types include advisory and consulting firms, nonprofit technical assistants, nonprofit intermediaries, state agencies, philanthropy, project developers, technology vendors, and investors. And some of our key project sponsors are going to be nonprofits, towns or cities, municipalities, multi-county regions, multi-city regions, project developers, neighborhood units, consortias, and then anyone else. It could be a concerned citizen that sees the need for a project in their neighborhood. We also help any project at any stage and at any size. We do focus the majority of our resources on smaller scale projects that have trouble accessing the funding that they need, because a lot of these large developers and large funders and investors are not going to get out of bed for less than $60 million. So our sweet spot really is working with those projects that need about 500,000 to $1 million to get off the ground. But we do work with projects of any size and any stage. So could be early stage, just have an idea of what they want to do. Could be mid-stage, maybe they need a little more technical assistance, or they could be late stage and just need some funding to get over the finish line. But we do focus exclusively on that pre-development life cycle. And now I'm just going to switch over really quickly to the platform and show some of our key resources. Um, so I've pulled up here, as you can see, this is an internal demo project, just to show you a little bit of the information that we collect from a project as they're joining the platform. So there's a very low barrier to entry to upload a project, and you don't need to have a project on the platform or be providing services to create your account and see what we have available. So at the end of this call, I would encourage everyone to create an account and just see what we have. But you can see here, this is our internal demo project. And essentially, in order to create a project, we just need information on the project's current status, the project's main project type and subtype, their current activity, their stage, and their geographic location. Now, if a project is completely undefined, we just need a general state to be able to create it and start showing them what resources could be available if they're still in those early stages. But we also have additional fields. And the way that the CIC works is the more information we have, the more resources we can connect you with. So all of these fields are going to be private, only available to the internal project team. We also have the ability to mark the entire project as private, just in case someone isn't looking to get actively matched to resources. But essentially, we have the ability for a project to give us a project narrative, a specific address, which is going to be really topical and important when we start talking about opportunity zones. The goals of the project, their progress to date, funding that they already have committed, and then most importantly, how can we help? Why did you join the CIC? What are you looking to accomplish? And what do you need from us to make your project successful? Every project that joins the CIC is triaged by my immediate team. We have daily stand-up calls where we review all of the information that's been provided to us, and we immediately can determine if a project is ready for funding, and we can move them into our deal room process, which I'll explain in just a second, or if they need additional technical assistance, in which case we immediately start matching them with providers. And if we're not sure, just based on our gut reaction from what a project has given us so far, we'll reach out to the project sponsor at that point and ask for the information that we need to make that determination. We also have several project readiness assessments in the platform. So our main project readiness assessment is going to be the most relevant to infrastructure, physical infrastructure assets specifically. So we ask questions about every stage of pre-development, every activity that needs to be completed for a project to be considered shovel ready. And in doing so, we're able to determine their total readiness score. We then break that down by specific project areas. And then as you scroll through your results, you can see the actual activities that still need to be completed in order to be considered shovel ready. This is super helpful for our team because it tells us what activities you need technical assistance or funding to cover. And it's also really helpful to the project team because they know how to put together their game plan moving forward. We also have several additional assessments. We have an equity assessment that was built in by a partner of ours, the Partnership for Equitable and Resilient Communities, PERC, if you're familiar. So this is very, very helpful, and it's available to every project on the platform. Specifically for energy and resilience projects, we have the Department of Energy's Credit Ready checklist built into the platform. And then through a partnership with the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, for New England communities, we have the New England Inclusive Economies Interest Forum. Moving on to funding, we like to call this feature the funding and financing calculator. It's not quite a calculator, but it will show you as you're going through, you upload every source of funding that you are interested in pursuing or have secured. And in doing so, we're able to help you put together a full budget for your project. So looking through here, you can see what's being pursued, what's been identified, what's been secured. And you can see based on what your project is going to cost in total, how much more you need to get to the finish line. And that is super helpful, again, for the project team and planning, but also for our team as we're making introductions to funders. As you scroll through here, you can see under My Matches, this is where the automated grant matching comes into play. So if we look here, you can see some of these say manual match and some of them have a percentage here. If there's a percentage associated with a match, that means that our algorithm has determined this as the most relevant fit to your project. we do this through a keyword search algorithm. So it's picking up on the specific activities outlined in the grants proposal and the information that you've given us on the platform. So that's why I said, like, it's really, really important to fill out as much information as you have access to, because then these are just going to get more and more relevant. If we start off with basic information, that's totally fine. It can help guide someone in the right direction. But it's when we have a really completely filled out profile that we're seeing these extremely high match scores. And then if you see manual match next to a match, that means that we have connected you with a provider, typically a project consultant or potentially a pro bono consultant or technical assistance provider who has reviewed your project and determined that this is a really good fit for you specifically, and they're recommending that you take a look at these. And our team also monitors this as well. We remove anything that doesn't seem relevant, and we add manual matches too. And then if you go into my matches, that's just someone saving what they're interested in, if they've applied, if they've lost, if they've won any of these funds for tracking purposes. And then we can go into project files. This is a newer feature, and essentially this is just to make the platform more collaborative for anyone that could be working with a project. So once you've been matched to a project as a provider, you get access to this backend information. And just to clarify that process a little bit, a match has to be consented to by both parties. So you will never have someone added to your project, and you will never be added to a project unless both the project sponsor and the provider have said, yes, we think this is a great match and we want to access the information and let them see the information. Once you've been added to a project as a provider, you can access all of these files. And it could either be a CSV file, a PDF, a Word document, or it could be a link to a shared doc where everyone can work collaboratively within the platform as well. And then we have our task list. This is really helpful for tracking the overall progress of a project, as well as for that collaboration aspect. So anyone that's working on a project can add tasks, descriptions, and assign it to a specific member of the project team. If there's a due date, that can be put in as well. If not, you can leave it completely blank. But you can see a little bit of information here about, these are all examples for our demo project, but you can see, you can add in a description, you can add resources, you can assign it to project members, and then you can complete the task all within this field. And then once a task has been completed by the relevant party, they just check it off. And then we have here just an overview of the entire project at a glance. This is really helpful for our providers that are working with multiple projects or have a portfolio of projects, and they just want to see generally where the project stands and what needs to be done next. And then I'll get into our knowledge base in just a second, but you can save knowledge base resources to a project. The collaboration tab is for internal project messaging. And then we have our recommended provider matches here. So these are providers that have not been matched to the project, and you can request a match. And again, that's that keyword algorithm picking up on the relevance in information and services that they provide versus information provided by the project sponsor. And then last but not least, within the project scope, you can see every member of a project once you've been connected. So you can see who the project owner is, who project members are, and if there are any matched providers, and what the provider, the individual that's been matched, as well as the organization they've been matched from. And you can see here, there's a lot that's not going to be the case on most projects. This is just because it's our demo project and we match everyone who wants an example to this project specifically. I know this is a lot of information, and I also know we have a lot of time today, so I'm happy to pause for questions now and then keep going, or I can just power through and take questions at the very end. Okay, I don't hear anything, so I'm going to power through and then we can do questions at the end. Just a few more resources on the platform specifically that are relevant to anyone who creates an account, but we do have our member registry. which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a Rolodex of every member of the platform. So you can see individual members, and you can also filter and sort by any specific information that you're interested in seeing. And then you can also sort by organization. And same here, we also have a lot of different ways to filter to find the individuals that are the most relevant to you. And then if you're ever interested in getting in contact with anyone, you can message them. You can view if they have any projects that if they're a provider that they're associated with, or if they're a project sponsor that they have uploaded. And you can see any members of the team here. And just for demonstration purposes, I can go ahead and type in Hawaii and show you the organizations that we have here that have joined us from the state of Hawaii. Next up, I can show our project database. So again, very similar to the member registry, every public project on the platform has a profile in our project database. So you can see just high-level information about the project description and then those fields that we require when a project is created. You can message the project team, view more details, or you can copy if you would like to save this project and review it again later. That URL will take you directly back to this view unless you're matched to a project, in which it'll take you to the full project's details. And then if you're a provider that's been matched to projects, you will see a slightly different view here as well. And you can see all of the projects that you have been matched to. And then this is where I was accessing that field earlier that I was showing you with our demo project. And this is the view that opens up for you. And then additionally, if you are a provider, you still have the ability to upload projects. You don't just have to be a project sponsor to be able to upload projects, but those are going to be here in unassigned. So you can upload projects on behalf of a project sponsor that you're working with. And then once they create their account, you can assign them as the owner. But until then, you'll have management of that project. And then you can create a project. And then one more thing that I think would be really helpful to show for this group is our project filters. We again have a lot of different ways to break down this information so you can see what's the most relevant to you if you're coming from the provider side and you're looking for projects to get connected with. But most notably, I would say are our project tags. So we're able to tag by a lot of different criteria that are important for funders. Specifically, I would say opportunity zones for this group. And you can see all of the projects on the platform currently that are within an opportunity zone. Next up is our knowledge base. Like I said, we have about 1,500 knowledge base articles in the platform. These come either from providers that are on the platform that are experts in specific project areas, and they upload these resources for the projects that they're working with broadly for everyone to access, or they come from research that's done by our team. And within the knowledge base, you'll find case studies, templates, data sets, different tools, maps, resources, like office hours and community trainings, et cetera, that are relevant to any type of project. Again, filterable by this information here so you can see what's most relevant to you. If there's an article that you are interested in reading and you don't have time right now, or you don't want to save it or remember where it was, or track it some other way, you can favorite that resource to go back and view it later. And then as a provider on the platform, you also have the ability to upload knowledge base articles. So you can see here. But I would say one of the more important features of the knowledge base for providers is the ability to match them to projects. So you can select any resource that you think would be relevant to a project team, and you can save it directly to a project that you've already been matched with. Similarly, we have our funding database completely open to anyone. So we have, if it'll load, we have about 800 different opportunities that have been indexed from either federal providers, state providers, or philanthropy. as well as private capital. And you can come in and search for those opportunities within the database. We had significantly more prior to the new administration coming in, but we've been very diligent about removing opportunities as they are no longer available or relevant. And then finally, I will show our community board, which is, depending on your role on the platform, can have a few different uses. If you are a project sponsor that is looking to get connected to the resources your project needs to move forward, you can use this as a LinkedIn type tool. We regularly post any webinars that we have, any calls that we do regularly throughout the month, like our community of practice call, as well as we host different channels. So we have project-based, program-based, and place-based channels that anyone can join based on the relevancy to their projects. And this is a way for individuals to share essentially targeted resources for those project sponsors specifically. And that could be an upcoming meeting, it could be a webinar, it could be a specific resource, like a case study, or it could just be a space for project sponsors to ask questions of experts who are going to see that information in a more targeted place. We also have the ability for providers to act as portfolio managers and create channels for their entire network of both providers and project sponsors. So a few large intermediaries that I can give as an example, we have the state of Michigan, we have the National Broadband Technical Assistance Marketplace, FEMA's Community Disaster Resilience Zone program had a channel on the platform, and since their administrator is no longer with FEMA, she's decided to continue her work in a different capacity and is still leading the charge on the projects who were given that designation. We also have a partnership with the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, and they have a channel for all of the members of their Inclusive Economies program. And then we also conduct a lot of different pilot projects and partnerships with other nonprofit intermediaries who are able to administer their expertise to projects as well. Our deal room channel, I'm going to talk about the deal rooms as I continue the presentation next, but our deal room channel is a space for anyone who is affiliated with our deal room series to view all of the information about previous, upcoming deal rooms and any of the projects that we've been working with through this capacity. And with that, I'm going to switch back over to my presentation. Okay, so I think there were several different points at which I stopped and said, I'm going to talk about this more later. So now I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper on all of those points. But this is just a little bit of information about how the CIC is currently and planning to, in the future, support Opportunity Zone projects. So this is just an example of some of the more OZ suitable projects that we're able to support and surface through the platform. And then, so existing services and what's in development. Right now, we are automatically tagging every Opportunity Zone project based on the address as they enter the platform. We are aggregating OZ funds to showcase investable projects that are aligned with the 10-year capital gains benefit. And we are providing additional funding and financing alignment with OZ funds to CDFI loans, green bank financing, philanthropy, and public grants. We are also in the process of building out an Opportunity Zone channel for all projects to assemble and gain those resources and access those connections. And we are planning moving forward to develop an Opportunity Zone specific readiness assessment and template. And I didn't really get into the project templates, but if a project currently that is within ground mounted or rooftop solar or building retrofit or new construction join the platform, we have specific attributes that we ask of them because we have spoken very in depth with a lot of funders that fund those types of projects on what information they need immediately to know if the project is fundable based on their criteria. So we're planning on building out a template for Opportunity Zone projects specifically based on the OZ fund aggregation that we are currently doing. And then deal rooms. So I showed a little bit of our deal room channel when I was just going through the platform demonstration. But essentially, the way that a deal room works is we find either a finance ready project or a developer that has a portfolio of finance ready projects. And we get all of the back end information that we need from them that a funder would request in determining whether or not they can make a deal. We then, once we have all of that information combined, schedule a 1 hour virtual session where we invite a targeted list of funders from our network to join and hear a direct pitch from either the project sponsor or the portfolio developer. After a deal room, we give funders 1 week to let us know whether or not they're interested in moving forward and if they want to make a deal, at which point we will directly connect the two via email, and then we keep up with the progress to see whether or not funds have been administered or deployed. Since November, when we first started the series, we have moved over $775 million worth of assets through the deal room structure. And we have seen really good, we've gotten really good feedback from funders, and we've seen a lot of interest from project sponsors and developers. So we are planning, rather than what we have been doing since November, which is once a month deal rooms, we're planning on doing once a week deal rooms starting this November. So really excited to share the progress as we keep moving forward with the series. Last week, we had a convening with the state of Michigan. It was the Community and Climate Capital Mobilization convening, where 75 attendees from state offices and financial institutions participated in programming that was hosted by our team. And essentially, the goal was to get more information from funders and the state on how they could partner together to administer projects specifically in the state of Michigan. So as a follow-up, we will be hosting monthly deal rooms with Michigan specific projects to deploy that essential private capital within the state. We're also working with Alabama, California, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, New England through the Federal Reserve, and Puerto Rico to do very similar work moving forward and into the new year. So finally, that was, a lot of information crammed into half an hour, but I would love to answer any questions that anyone has about the CIC platform in general, our opportunity zone work, our deal rooms, or anything else that I went over. And I'm not sure, Ramona and team, what works best if everyone can just unmute and ask questions as they come up, or maybe utilizing the chat. It's totally kind of your preference.
Ruby and Carl, have you got druthers on that?
No, I think this is an open platform. If people want to just ask questions, or questions about next steps, or how they get involved, or how they see this working in their for their particular projects. Sarah, with the new Opportunity Zones 2.0 coming up and the desire to kind of align the new census tracts with strategic growth initiatives, do you see the CIC and Deal Room as your platform as being a helpful platform for organizing around that?
Absolutely. I think, as we're, prepping for OZ 2.0, we have been thinking really diligently on exactly how we can best support Opportunity Zone projects. And I think, it's going to be, I think, quite a big change from previous legislation and guidance surrounding opportunity zones. So what we're trying to build out now is a place to aggregate all of the opportunity zone projects that come our way through the channel in order to make sure that no one is falling through the cracks and everyone is able to ask the information that they need from the experts who are already working within opportunity zones and continuing to work through opportunity zones 2.0. As well as making sure that we are holding space for opportunity zone projects within our deal room series to ensure that they are able to access the funding that they need full scale, not just from OZ funds, but from other providers as well. Because I think, as we all know, no one project is going to be built by one source of capital. So in aggregating the opportunity zone funds and figuring out what other types of capital are going to be complementary to those funds, I think our deal room series would be a big help in moving these projects forward. And then my hope is that we are able to effectively work with partners that are directly in contact with opportunity zone projects to build out a readiness assessment that will further kind of support the landscape of technical assistance to OZs.
So Sarah, how would a Hawaii channel work based on what you've just mentioned as a possibility? And when states, like you say, you work for the Michigan State, who is the one that you find normally is the one that sponsors it, or who comes to the table first to bring the state in?
Yeah, I would say I think Michigan and New Mexico are really great examples of two states that are effectively running channels in different ways. Um, the state of New Mexico, I was able to connect with through a partnership with the individuals who built out our equity assessment on the platform PERC, the Partnership for Equitable and Resilient Communities. I attended a conference about 2 years ago in Albuquerque, and it was a PERC conference that the state was at as well, and began talking with their finance department specifically, their infrastructure finance department specifically, on kind of what the needs were in the state, and they identified a specific program that they would like to host a channel for on the platform. California, through the Strategic Growth Council, has done something very similar. And in both of those instances, we have white labeled the CIC. We have a specific entry point for those individuals to create their account that automatically associates them with the channel. And within the channel, they're administering important information about the programming, as well as answering questions and posting about upcoming events to keep everyone engaged. Whereas in Michigan, and another option, which is completely at the discretion of the individual state that we are working with, anyone who creates a project in Michigan is automatically added to the channel, so the state can index and help us as we triage in connecting them to technical assistance and funding that they have within their network. So it just broadens kind of the goal of the CIC, which is to be a completely open source marketplace where anyone can access the information they need. Just extra hands from the state to help us do so. And I would say every state looks a little different. I would say, like North Carolina, we are working directly with an office that was previously administering COVID support and was transitioned after the pandemic lightened up within the past year or so to do more development support. So it really is just based on capacity. Every state looks a little different. We don't necessarily have one target channel manager that we work with, but rather whoever is able to support the state projects, whether it's through specific programming or just in general.
So to follow up on that very specifically and to clarify, so you're basically saying you could potentially create a channel, like the state could create a channel that could be used to actually cultivate a pipeline of projects.
Exactly. That's the goal.
Okay. So we would have a multitude of projects that might be going off in any one specific area that we would be constantly trying to match up with resources and get them to the next level. Okay.
Exactly. And not doing so alone. Again, our team does all of the triaging on our end as well. So it would be added support for you to be able to maintain that network and that connection, and have them be able to access the resources individually, as well as we also will index the the providers that are associated with the state, so we can encourage replicability based on their capacity. So if we know one provider specifically, say it's like an Engineers Without Borders type of NGO or pro bono consultant that has capacity to work with maybe 5 projects per month on feasibility studies. We know what their capacity is. We know what their cost is if they're pro bono or if they charge a fee, and how many projects we could feasibly match with them. So we keep them in the network to be able to easily replicate the first relationship based on their capacity.
Okay, and so what's the best way for people who may either have their agents for a project or their agencies delivering a project, the best way to start utilizing your tool, they just sign up and they just register and or contact you to kind of walk them through that process if they have questions or need to figure out how to best utilize the resources at your platform?
Yeah, let me go ahead. I'm going to drop 2 links in the chat here. This first link is for, let's see. This is going to be for project sponsors. So anyone who would consider themselves a project sponsor, and again, that's going to be the community with a project, is going to create an account through this link. And then I'm going to drop one in right now for providers as well. So if you are more so working with many different projects, this is the link that you will use.
And then the addition would be the tagging through OZ, right? That's just an additional tool rather than totally perfect.
That's done automatically. The only information that we do need in order to tag a project as an OZ is their specific address, their street address, and that's not publicly provided. We don't make that visible in the project registry, but just because of the ways that OZs are designated, we do need very granular data on their geographic location.
So when we're looking at providers that aren't locally, but from outside, how does one educate them on the more nuances in regards to investing in Hawaii, as an example?
Yeah, I think we look primarily to make regional associations with a lot of our providers. We ask for information from every individual when they join about where they administer services. If it's, hyper locally, just down to like the county level, if it's statewide, or if it's national. And if it's national, we're very mindful, I would say, in making sure that we are only mapping them to projects that align with their investment priorities and their investment criteria. So typically what we're looking at then is the project type and then the project subtype, the project specific ask, what specific activities they need to have funded. And then from there, we add in any nuances from funding that is already committed or that they're currently pursuing. So we kind of have a checklist that we go through with every match to make sure that it's going to be relevant. And so we're not going to be, I would say, most of the time matching a provider to an opportunity zone project that has not worked with opportunity zone projects before. Even if they're not a designated OZ fund, they'll have that familiarity and that expertise. Same with the state of Hawaii. Like, we're probably, unless a provider has just not had the opportunity to invest in a project in the state of Hawaii before, likely if they do work nationally and they have a presence in every state, they will have experienced the nuances of working with projects in Hawaii versus projects in Massachusetts, for example.
So, yeah, you go, Ruby.
Yeah, so I have a question. So do you market your platform to providers in certain regions to be able to get them to identify themselves as providers at your site, on your platform, like
Not
banks,
specifically.
CDFIs?
We
foundation?
do We do a lot of work to make sure that the platform remains balanced. So we like to make sure that we have a certain percentage of individuals on the platform that are project sponsors versus providers. And based on the number of project sponsors we have and their geographic locations and makeup, we make sure that we have providers that can cover every geography that projects are working within. So the only instance I can think of where we would specifically market our services to an individual is if we have a project with that need and don't currently have a match to provide them with, we will then do research on our end, find a CDFI, find a green bank, find a philanthropy or a family office or a technical assistance provider that is able to fit those projects' needs. And then we will, set up a call with them, explain them what the CIC is, what the opportunity is with this specific project, and find the resources in that way. Early on, the platform, I will say, we launched it publicly a little over 2.5 years ago. And at first, I would say the first year and a half of that, we were entirely focused on scalability. So we did a lot of research at that point, and we attended a lot of conferences, and we spoke about the CIC and what we were trying to do and early successes that we were having in this model in order to get as many projects and providers of every different type of community, every different type of provider across the country to join the platform. And then I would say for the last year or so since then, we've been focused on quality of the matchmaking and quality of the deals. So we luckily, I don't think, have as many blind spots as far as reach goes. But if that ever does come up, we revert back to what we were doing in the beginning and do the research and search for those individuals.
Unless Ramona or anybody else has any other questions, I was just wondering, Sarah, if you could go back into the platform and show the people the project sponsors that are already registered, and then and local Hawaii or regional providers that are already available, just so that we can get to see if who's starting to use your resource and who's putting themselves out there as a resource for projects in Hawaii.
Absolutely. I can start with providers and show here. So we have, it looks like, quite a few individuals from Elemental, as well as state funding readiness project from Kalua, Hawaii, and then HT Architecture in Honolulu that have joined as providers. And then if I switch this over to show project sponsors, you can see the individuals who have joined with projects in Hawaii. And that doesn't mean that they've uploaded their projects. It just means that they have joined as a project type that would be able to upload projects.
Okay, thank you very much.
An Elemental Accelerator is a partner. Are they contributing anything in particular, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, Elemental, we use them as a thought partner for a lot of our convenings. So they had a presence actually in Michigan last week at our most recent state convening. We have done several different pushes with them in the past on specific project types and in specific geographies, and they have contributed a lot of resources to our knowledge base.
And that's perfect, since they are familiar with Hawaii. It's always nice to see that you're getting support from Hawaii, so you're already part of us. Thank you. And I guess I have one last question. I hope if it's okay. So I know that Milken Institute, as a think tank, and in particular on the finance section, do you folks ever get involved in creating new types of other types of tools, of financing tools, of vehicles that could be conceivably pulled into something like what you're doing here with your CIC, in terms of, it's one of the things that I've been really interested in is the impact investing, which is very specific in terms of ESG and it's more global and more developing countries and the way that they've developed vehicles that sometimes we in a more developed or advanced nation. Do you see that ever occurring on your end since you folks have all the people power and brain power to be able to create new types of vehicles that have not been applied before, but definitely fill a gap?
Yeah, I would say, it's a tricky designation because we are a think tank. We are also a nonprofit. So we don't ourselves have the ability to participate in direct granting. We do find some creative workarounds, I would say, in which like we are able to subsidize the cost of the platform to all of our individuals through fundraising and philanthropy. We've participated in pilot projects where we have purchased a service and then gifted that service in kind to communities that we have worked with. And so we are able to creatively kind of work around our ability to financially contribute to a lot of the projects that we are working with. I would say the Milken Institute as a whole, and I didn't get into the other pillars at all, but we have major initiatives in health, finance, and philanthropy. I sit within the finance pillar. Our health pillar focuses on a lot of work surrounding faster cures for diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's. And our philanthropy department is focused exclusively on pathways to funding for every initiative that the Institute touches. So what we always like to say is our power is in convening. We have the relationships. We know individuals within our network's capacity to create a financing vehicle or a new funding pathway or a new type of pool of funds. And so we will bring them together. We will host a convening. We will sit down and we will say, this is a need. This is a solution. How are you all able to contribute to this solution? And assist in the formation of forming those vehicles, but we ourselves are not able to administer funds in that way.
Understood. But when you folks do those deal rooms and stuff, can you filter to see whether there's something that's missing, there's a gap that's not being financed, and maybe there isn't really a tool yet, perhaps, that is finally honed to be able to fit? So then you could do these models and stuff like that. I mean, you have that capability, correct?
We do, yes, that's right.
So as a follow-up to Ramona's question, say specifically like crowdfunding tools or mechanisms, and could this platform be used to do the TA and the research necessary and bring people together to talk about whether crowdfunding, finance or funding or financing tools could be utilized in Hawaii and institutionalized? As part of anybody's capital stack, especially for smaller scale projects, would this platform be something that could support that kind of work?
Absolutely. I think our community feature, should anyone identify that they want to stand up a Hawaii specific channel as a readout of this call, I think that would be the perfect place to have those conversations, convene the right audience, and host sessions that could discuss exactly that.
Thank you.
That would be really ideal, Sarah, in terms of both the galvanizing and the catalyzation of these types of conversations that really need to occur, and having what Milken Institute seems to bring, which is what I hear, is that diversity of reach in terms of not only brain power, but obviously a network that's far and wide to be able to create these types of opportunities and options. So I think that that's really an added bonus, should I say, or benefit for creating maybe a Hawaii channel, should we should that come to being. But I'm really,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that that's really, is there anything else that you feel could be next steps for people here to think about and to maybe strongly advocate for?
Yeah, I definitely would love to connect with anyone who is working directly with Opportunity Zone projects on what they're seeing on the ground, because a lot of what I can see comes from kind of expert witnesses and individuals who are, kind of directly seeing the impact of these projects and the barriers that they're facing, as well as research that I'm able to do as someone who's not on the ground with them. So as I'm forming out our opportunity zones offerings, like a readiness assessment and trying to figure out what works the best for targeted deal rooms, as well as building out that opportunity zone channel, I want to include as much input and information as I can from the individuals who are seeing firsthand exactly what's being experienced. So I would love to connect with anyone who is able to provide any expertise or information on that front. As far as a Hawaii specific channel goes, I would love to stand that up in conjunction with the state. So I think the best bet there would be for us to hop on a separate call and talk about anyone who would want to participate in a Hawaii specific channel, and again, how to structure that so it's the most impactful to the individuals who would reach it. And then other than that, I would just encourage everyone to create an account. I think I've mentioned multiple times, but it is free. So we want as many people to be using the CIC as possible so that we're reaching as many communities as possible. So project sponsor or provider, please use the links in the chat and create your accounts. And then I will also leave my email. So if anyone has questions or wants to follow up on any of the information I shared today, I'm happy to do so.
And the recording and the PowerPoint's going to be on the TOD website, correct, Ruby?
Right. So it'll be in the DBID Business Development Support Division's website, as far as I know.
Where the other OZ resources are also available.
Yeah, there's a link in the chat that I posted at the beginning of the webinar, which has the link.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you all so much. It was great to meet everyone today. And like I said, my email's in the chat. Please grab it. Reach out if you have questions.
Great. And if anybody, obviously, we've got a group of people here who probably have projects in mind. And so please reach out to Sarah and get yourself registered. Thank you all.
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Aloha.